her letter of resignation
Okay,
because she is moving, but then she lost the email with the letter in it. And so I think it will be coming.
okay, she is moving.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Are we ready to go? Great. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Let's do a roll call. We have Beth White, Ann Harris, Susan Johnson, Suzanne Frazier, David Thickman, and attending his last meeting is Michael Stout, and we'll vote on you at the end. So,
Make sure you're.
am I on or not? I'm
Sorry.
sorry.
Sorry, should I start over? No, just maybe
Okay.
just a little bit closer. to it.
Any Zoom attendees?
Just Lori.
Oh, you have.
So do we have any Zoom people attending?
Well,
Someone's
Lori
knocking.
Lori and Kris.
We got Kris and Laurie. All right. Number 2 is approving the minutes from the September the 1st meeting. I think Kay did a great job. They were very extensive, and we're going to touch on them in a minute. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Beth White has made that motion. Do we have a second?
Awesome. Okay.
And Suzanne Frazier has seconded. If you have a copy of those minutes, let's take just a moment to look at a couple of things. In regards to the 1%, David, could you go ahead and address where we are on getting a little bit more detailed information on that so people understand it?
I can try.
Okay.
Beth, Michael and I wanted to get a meeting going with Renee Gustine. I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name. That was recommended for us to do, and that attempts were made. We actually ended up getting a meeting scheduled, which was subsequently unfortunately canceled. But she did answer a whole bunch of questions by email. And if you want, I can go over those. So there were 2 letters. I sent her email letters, one on September 2nd, and got answers to that, another on about 2 weeks later on September 17th. So the first part is related to our Carbondale Public Arts Commission in contrast to the 1% for the arts. And my understanding from Renee is that these are 2 separate entities, but they are somewhat related in that the Carbondale Public Arts Commission must be involved in decision-making of how the 1% for the arts is used. So in specific, there was like if a sculpture gets sold for the art around town, which is part of the Public Arts Commission, where does that money go? And the answer was any art sale is handled through the 1% fund. So the 15 pieces we have here and the 2 that have been sold, that money goes to the 1% for the arts fund and not back to the Public Arts Commission for
The budget.
For the budget. Okay. Now, she also specified that of that sale, 25% goes to the town and 75% of the sale goes to the artist. Questions were asked about, well, what about it's public works, and then how does this relate to private works in Colorado? Everything from King Soopers putting up the painting to the new work that's being done by the roundabout and the work that we were all talked about here with the potential storage sheds and all of that. Those are private things. And her answer was, it's in the resolution. So if you go to the resolution basically says that 1% is for town public works. And the closest we get to private is a little statement at the end that says the commission, meaning CPAC, will encourage the private sector to use the guidelines presented in this resolution for purchase and commission of of artwork. So private things, as best I can tell, this is my interpretation, because their guidance was, it's in the guidelines, is that we can try to develop a relationship with private enterprise that wants to do things. And I think it sounds like the 1% for the arts and the trustees would encourage that we're supposed to try to do those kinds of things, but there's no mechanism set up to doing so. There's no official rules for doing that. So the private world dealing with a 1% or any kind of money for art is independent of this commission, and we don't have any official input whatsoever. Okay, other questions were, this refers to projects above $100,000 and above. So that if a public work, like a park repair, for example, they did Orchard Park in River Valley Ranch. That's a public work. It's paid for by River Valley Ranch. The guidelines or the resolution says it doesn't matter who pays for it. If it's for the public, it counts. But if that project costs $50,000, it does not fall into the 1% for the arts, because it's not above $100,000. These things are also have to be in the budget. So the town approves the budget. They're starting the 2022 budget now, and then they approve contracts for any such expenditure. How we get notified and all of that is not clear. And so a mechanism for knowing when there's $100,000 project, when that project has been approved, to me is still unclear. She did not really answer that. The closest she came is when I asked a whole bunch of questions about the aquatic facility. It says it stated that before hiring an architectural team, any capital construction project, the project manager shall meet with the commission for the purpose of determining how public art will be incorporated into the project. Who guarantees that the project manager will contact us is not specified, and I don't know of a mechanism to do that. Maybe somehow when things go through the board of trustees, they look at it and ask, but I don't know. And but so the answer to that was the project manager is supposed to meet with us to determine how that is before hiring the architectural firm. So somehow the budget gets approved, then they go to hire the architectural firm, then the architectural firm and the manager come to us for projects above $100,000. Does that
Could you
make?
give some examples of what those projects might be?
Well, the swimming pool project is $4 million.
Right.
So that meets the $100,000 criteria. Right?
And that will be in this upcoming.
Budget, exactly.
Therefore.
They're not,
After that budget is approved, the architect's hired.
The swimming pool's not in this year's budget.
Well, she had said that it was.
It's a master plan right now. They are starting to talk about the funding mechanisms, but it's not in the budget for 2022.
Makes
So
sense.
how would we, as a collaborating agency, as defined by the resolution, have knowledge of where any of the state of which any of these projects were at? So for example, you're saying it's not at a place yet where it would be appropriate for us to be at the table.
Right.
How would we have knowledge of that if we weren't being proactive? Shouldn't there be some mechanism whereby this
I think that if
advisory board is
you,
notified?
no, because you're an advisory board.
But let me ask you this, as an advisory board, we still have expectations from the town and community that we're expected to perform as defined by the resolution. So is that correct? Is that fair to say?
You do have, but I think like at the last meeting, I think Anne mentioned that, you know, Jay had been very clear about what CPAC's primary role was, which was the art around town. If you want to delve into more of this, I think that would be up to Lori. That would be a staff. Staff would have to talk with the building department, the planning department.
Well,
And
Well,
so
I think
you
we
would
have a
actually-
to work with-
responsibility. I mean, I don't think that this is like we're getting out of our lane. I think
I'm
we're-
not saying that you are, but
Right.
let me give you examples.
Mhm.
So the tree board is also an advisory board.
Yeah.
So if there are trees that will be planted within the right of way,
Mhm.
then the building department and or the planning department will contact the town arborist, who then will present the plans to the tree board
Mhm.
for discussion. And then ultimately, Kevin Shorsman, the public works director, has the final say.
Mhm.
All the tree board can do is advise that
But-
they would like to see these kinds of trees.
So that model has been successful because the
Sure.
lines of communication.
Sure, so
are
you would need
entrenched.
to have.
So I think that's what
Lori-
we're efforting at, is just trying to get clarity. I mean, we're educating ourselves about something that both parties
Sure, well,
should actively be
part of-
pursuing a collaborative. So anyhow, I think that's one of the things that has come out of this, which is great, because now it's something we can effort to actually actively be doing our due diligence as expected as an advisory board.
Sure.
That doesn't speak to outcome. We have no idea. We have no attachment to those things. We just want to
Yeah.
be fully,
so Lori will need
appraised
to
of what our
talk to
obligations
John
are.
Plano and to John Laybourne and Janet Buck and say, when these projects come before you. And I think that it did work because you guys reviewed the storage facility, right? It came
yeah, I'm
here.
not sure that, we're endeavoring now to have full clarity as to what our responsibilities are with regards to that. So, yeah, that's great. We did that, but that may not be the full aerial view of what our scope
Yeah.
of
I
things
think
are.
what you're saying, Beth, is really sort of critical, and
Yeah, just
the
a-
mechanism isn't clear. The responsibilities for the 1% for the art, responsibilities for administration of the 1% for the arts program shall rest with the commission. The commission is the Carbondale Public Arts Commission.
Sure.
So we're responsible for something. How we are aware of the projects and all of that, I think needs, as Beth is saying, better clarification. And Renee said, maybe speak with planning to start a dialogue with the proposed, with new private projects and public projects come in. And so somehow we get notified
yeah.
of them. But that's something that we might want to, for us to
Yeah, I mean, I
discuss is
think
how to
this is a
do it.
positive thing, because as we're educating ourselves, we're endeavoring to fulfill those obligations. That's
Mhm.
what this is doing for us.
Yeah,
And not for us, because we're a voluntary board, as agents of the community.
Yeah.
So that's great. And hopefully we can get back with her and we can just continue, the three of us and as a group, to just get clarity.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then to the degree that we have a role in those functions as clearly defined by this I can't even think of the word, but whatever this is, it's guiding us that you're reading. The resolution, excuse me, then we will endeavor to fulfill those or not, as called forth to do.
there are just a few other little brief ones, I think, because I think the main one is how the communication happens. But there were other areas of clarification. For example, the CPAC budget evidently falls under the streets department, according to Renee. Our budget is totally independent of the 1% for the arts. So that they're different things. The CPAC funds do not carry forward, as we have learned and discussed. The street department has a new budget every year. We're part of that budget. And so if we use it, great. If we don't, it's lost. The 1% for the arts, though, carries forward. So whatever funds are in there continue as part of that 1% for the arts program. Lastly, I got off our topic a little bit with her because of the destruction that has happened to artwork that I'm aware of over the last 2 years. So it just became a question to me, is like, who has the insurance? Because the artists are paid by the insurance. Well, the liability insurance is paid through the general fund of the town. So it's not part of our budget. And then as a tag along, I would like to sometime I think it'd be helpful for us to discuss what we can do to prevent, if anything, the, if you will, just the malicious acts that happened last year where people were pulling off a horse and knocked off a bird to sculptures, to the maybe the more accident, less intentional kind where a car drives over Modulus Volcani or drove over the other one at Snowmass last year. I mean, 5 injuries have happened in 2 years to the sculptures here. That seems a lot. So it's a topic that it's, to me, we might want to try to figure out if we can do anything.
Just out of curiosity, does that represent an uptick?
I don't know. I've only
First
been
time we've
here.
ever taken note of it. So this could be
Yeah,
like just a,
It could be normal and maybe
Yeah,
every
right,
single
right.
town has this issue, but
right.
even if every town has it, it would just be nice to do something with.
Might need to track it a little bit further to see where it is from year to year and if it is on scale with other towns.
Yeah,
Right.
I've had 2 at Snowmass run over, so I think we should put up barriers myself, but we're getting ahead of this thing.
Thank you, David, and Michael for doing all that.
And I.
Did you have questions?
Communication is just so we don't get overly involved and waste anyone's time, the town or ours. You know, I think only once a project has been approved and is over X amount of dollars, then you may want an email going to the committee or the chair. But we can.
Yeah,
talk
well,
about that.
officially, they're supposed to notify us, right? Once the budget's done and they hire an architect, that before, that the next step is to talk to this commission about the 1% for the arts.
Has that historically occurred?
And the mechanism for that, as you're suggesting, Beth, is like, I don't
Well, we
know.
would know is like, has that historically occurred? Have you guys ever, I'm new to the board, like, have we ever? Okay, so it's just information. We don't know, we don't know. And that's all we're endeavoring to
Yeah.
do is educate ourselves.
So if I understand what you're saying, there is the possibility of a partnership between private endeavors and public endeavors.
There's nothing official that in terms of our role, other than that one statement that basically says the commission is encouraged to maybe apply these things or deal with the private groups. So
We
that-
were approached by a bank and they asked us to be involved in a sculpture selection, or would we like to have a space there? When we took it to Jay, he did not want us to be involved with any private enterprise because we get into private property, restrictions that we have, that they have, and
Possibly liability.
absolutely.
There
For
could be,
example,
those are right, but the challenge is that in the, where was it, section 5, I gotta find my paper. The reading says, the commission will encourage the private sector to use the guidelines presented in this resolution for purchase and commission of works of art for public display, ... Commission CPAC will encourage the private sector. That's what it says. So the question then is maybe it'd be, because it sounds like there's conflicting ideas here. Los Angeles just passed a resolution requiring the private world to put 1% to the arts. So they just did a resolution there where they just required it. So they dealt with all the liability issues. We don't have such a resolution, and maybe we don't want one, like Jay is suggesting. I don't know, but right now it says that this commission is encouraged.
I mean, the other thing is there is an attorney for the town that, you know, could put legal set eyes on this. I'm not
Yes.
saying that we want to, all I'm saying is none of us are attorneys. So we're like groping our way through interpreting this language. So, you know, I don't know under what circumstances his services are made available to agencies such as ourselves. I'm sure his time is very valuable, but it's something for us to think about, you know, that maybe as we go forward and we discuss this, and perhaps if both sides aren't coming, you know, getting clear, that we employ his knowledge
Yeah. I think that-
on behalf of the community again.
Okay. I think,
I think that for time, we need to go ahead and move on. So we're going to skip down to number 5, which is a budget update.
About, I think we want to know what the balance is.
We do want to know what the balance is, and could we have Lori state that, because my back of the envelope was approximately $1,200 that we have left till the end of the year. And I need to know what the cafe is going to cost. It's going to be journaled in the month of December. And just for for your information, going back to the September meeting, Ann and I have requested a meeting with Lori to review the budget, but unfortunately have not been able to get on her schedule yet. So Lori, could you address, please, where we are now with the budget?
Well, according to the budget, you have $18,604 out of a $21,000 line item budget. So the $1,200 for the insurance reimbursement came out, and I added that back in. So that is your ending balance right now. You have you've spent $18,604.
We've spent that.
And what's the cost of the cafe?
About $350.
Thank you.
so when we get cafe taken out, we still have additional money that we could make it.
When cafe is deducted, there would be enough money to increase the honorarium to the artists. So there is a possibility that our budget will be increased by approximately $200 to $2,200 next year. That's just under discussion, and we will not know until the month of December whether or not that has been approved. But as it stands right now, there is enough money to increase it to at least $950 per artist, because again, we're going on the 2021 expenditures, and if all holds true for 2022, that money should be available. There were a few charges in 2021 that would not be occurring in 22. For example, additional artist cards that are going in the plastic boxes around town. So we have the permanent collection cards plus those plastic boxes for display. So that is not an ongoing expense, kind of a one and done for 21. So going back to last month's meeting, we also had some discussion about vouchers. And if you noticed in your packet, I did include the printout from the Chamber of Commerce indicating exactly what businesses participate in the Carbondale bucks. So it's pretty good. There is lodging, there's gas, food, hotels, whatever. So it seems like it's pretty widespread. So we have discussed a couple of things, and now I'm going to kind of get into a little bit of a new topic. if the best in show is really being manipulated by artist friends so that one artist in particular wins $1,000, then at that point, maybe we should disband the best in show, which has been brought up, and we could take that $1,000, factor it back into the honorariums, plus add a little bit more. Conceivably, we could get the honorariums to $1,000 per artist and see where our cash is when we get to next year. And if we have even $50 per artist to offer them as a voucher to get them to come and stay, they only get the voucher if they're staying the night and attending the artist walk. So I think a lot of it is going to be driven by where we are budget-wise by, let's say, the end of April. So any thoughts on the voucher or increasing the honorarium?
I have a question about the budget
Okay.
before. Lori, did that $3,000 or the 18,000 that was spent include Joe's proposal to do $2,000 worth of powder coating?
No, it does not.
Would that come out of the 1%?
Yeah, that's usually what the maintenance fund is for.
So it would not come
Is for
out of-
maintenance. But just for the record, that sculpture was not originally powder coated. So that expense is just kind of to bring it up to a level that was not even previously represented. Other proposals have been to just use auto color paint, which is much cheaper. So powder coating it is kind of over the top for what it originally was, but that is definitely a good option.
Any other questions or comments on budget? Let's get the budget approved. Jumping around here.
So our balance is 2,396.
Yeah, but if you factor cafe out, we're approximately $2,000 to finish the year.
Okay.
So if we increased even $50 per artist, now you're at $750 off of the 2,000.
I
So,
don't, my opinion,
yes,
we shouldn't decide until we know if the extra money has been given to us in the budget.
true. So
And then I know it's a little bit later, but it's before cafe goes out, so.
I think the general consensus here is that we up the honorarium. When we have a better understanding of our budget, then we'll put it to a vote and get it read in. But it seems like everyone is on the same page as to that. So I think we've solved that. And I think that if we have any extra money as we get closer into the spring and we can present that to the artists for a voucher to get them to stay, then we will do that. Do we have a motion to approve the budget?
Motion, yeah.
Yeah,
motion to
we
approve the
don't-
budget, yeah.
Beth has made a motion to approve the budget and has seconded. Okay, moving on to Third Street Media Blast Update. I see that Brian is here with us. When I had a talk with Brian last, he was still waiting for Lori to give him some specifics as to the criteria to put out on a blast to try to change the sculptures on Third Street. So first of all, Brian, do you have any information yet? Have you sent out any blast?
I haven't yet, but I've been out of town and October is just getting started, so I'll probably send something out in the next week or so.
Okay,
So it should be good to
thanks.
send.
And Lori, have you had an opportunity to do a media blast for the Third Street?
No,
Sculptures.
because as Jay and Kevin have indicated several times, that is not another cafe call. And so the intent for that was overflow from cafe. So if there's any overflow from the next show in May, then we'll rotate those out. but we're not doing another cafe call or specs for a whole new situation there on Third Street. And Kevin and Jay have been very clear that that is a project that would happen at the same time of installs and deinstalls in May.
And we've had a lot of discussions with the commission about rotating those. And Richard Arnold has made it clear that he would like to move the sculpture, which is the eagle. And we reached out to Joe in the last meeting, and Joe said that he did have two pieces that he would send pictures of and the specs on. And I have asked him today to go ahead and do that so that those can be considered. Because if Richard Arnold wants his piece back and technically his contract with us is up, then that would certainly open up a piece to have rotated. So are there any comments or questions?
Well,
or
that's awesome.
discussion?
That's really cool that our Richard wants to do that. So he should probably give Public Works a call and let us know that. And then I'll talk to Kevin and try to see what, the schedule would allow for that. But it's been pretty clear from Jay and Kevin that nothing is going to happen till May.
Any other comments or questions on Third Street?
Are there
So
two
Brian,
sculptures?
I'll
There
keep you
are.
posted should anything change on that development.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Okay. Lori, may we have a tentative 6-month calendar?
Well, yeah, I sent that email out to everybody about the just kind of a rough draft schedule of cafe. And that's about all I know right now, because that's usually about as far as we go out.
I have a question regarding that. I think it's that cafe thing you sent. It says the deadline to submit an entry is February 4 of 2022. Notification to selected artists is February 11. That gives a week to assemble everybody with the cafe, to have, and last time I remember, there were 2 or 3 meetings and then one big meeting. So all of this is supposed to happen within a week, and then the letters to the artists have to be drafted and everything. So you're talking about 5 days because there's a weekend stuck in there. Is that reasonable? Is that doable?
Well, I kind of went off the schedule that Sarah had implemented. She felt like things needed to be quicker than what were happening. So that was kind of based on what Sarah had decided.
Who's Sarah?
Well, considering Sarah isn't here, if the commission wishes to change those dates, then that is something that we certainly can discuss.
That was pretty much a replication of last year, of which you were the chairperson. So everybody pretty much agreed to that schedule last year. I just went along that same plan.
Okay, so a week's enough time to do it, all this, 5 days. 5
Well-
days from the time the artist finishes to get the cafe organized, to get everybody organized, the meeting set, the voting done, and the letter. 5 days is plenty of time. I don't know. I'm just asking. People have more experience than I with this.
Is there any other discussion on changing or expanding anything that has to do with the voting schedule? Anne?
Well, I'm looking at a calendar.
Yeah, I would like to have
That
had
is
some
so-
tentative dates. but-
Laurie, the 4th is a Friday.
Yep.
And then Public Works needs to look at them, usually with us, to decide what isn't appropriate. So how soon would that happen? And how soon would they get to the whole commission?
Well, actually, Public Works doesn't have much input before you guys select them. We don't really get to weed them out. So we don't really have input. And then during the selection is when it's discussed about possibilities of what's going to work and what's not going to work. But Public Works does not get to weed the submissions out prior.
Oh, I thought, okay. So if you got them on the 4th, they could get to all the members by Monday.
You know, anything's possible. It's up to you guys. This was a draft and I based it on last year's schedule. So you can change it however you'd like. That's fine. If that's too quick, that I understand that. But it was based on last year's schedule. So it was just a draft.
Okay.
So it's entirely what you guys want to do.
So it's each member individually voting on their own computer. We don't gather for that.
One time we did.
We
gather.
did. We
Oh.
gathered after we took it from approximately 75 down to about 40.
Right.
And then we gathered as a group at the CMC lab and brought it down to the top 15 to 18.
And yeah, I'm just saying, I remember, because it was my first time, that it was sort of a 2-part process, right? And I'm just wondering, I mean, it seems like to me.
That 2-step process that we did last year, did it happen within a 1-week window?
It
Or
may
did
have, and I
just
don't
the
remember.
cafe
Yeah.
part of it? I mean, just did the group
Yeah.
second round of edits happen within that last week?
It did. Yeah,
So both happened in 1 week or just
No,
the second part?
We did the voting pretty quickly, individually. What happened in the past, we had a deadline. We stretched out selection. By the time letters from Laurie's office went to artists, many had accepted other offers. So we tried to squeeze it down so it was more efficient, and we got back to artists in a timelier manner.
I think that part's great. I don't know all the mechanism. I'm just
Well,
saying, okay, they're gonna get,
I want to interject that Sarah used to call everybody right after cafe, after the last vote, and let everybody know. So it was always based on the chairperson making the calls to let them know. And I believe you guys did that last year. My letters were just kind of like a congratulations, here's the contract kind of deal. So it was always up to the chair people to make those calls right after the last vote of cafe. So it happened really quick.
David, one of the reasons it was compressed was, as Ann said, to be able to notify those artists as soon as possible. And another part of it was when you kind of get in the mindset of you're starting to look at the sculptures, and you have like Monday and Tuesday to get your vote in. And then we need Wednesday to tabulate all of it, get that reconfigured. Then Thursday and Friday, we have vote number 2. And then the following week we get together. So I can certainly understand how you see that as being compressed, but 2 reasons. Want to get the artist contacted soon. And second of all, we're all kind of in that mindset. So you're thinking about various pieces, if that helps you at all. I mean, I'd love to have it stretched out a little bit more, but it seems to have worked pretty well in the past.
it wasn't that I wanted it less compressed. It's just a matter of is it doable?
Mhm.
And if it's doable, that's fine. It just, that means it comes on a Friday.
Last year?
What?
You did this based on the timeline last year, so it is doable, right?
I don't remember the timeline from last year.
Yeah,
that's
it's
sort of
doable,
what-
and it's very much a computer tabulation. So
Okay.
once the chair sits down and goes through all of it,
Great.
then it's just a question of working with the computer to parse
Perfect.
that.
1
And I
week's
will
enough. That's
say,
great.
having not done it, It makes sense to me just because to be in that mindset for a week instead of doing it one part one week and another part another week, instead of just like kind of being really focused that full week and getting it done with. That would be my preference, but that's me.
Yeah, and we could always push the 11th to the 14th if people work full-time and meet the weekend. But
Well, my bias would be that once you tell the artist they're getting notified on a date, that one is immutable.
Mhm.
yes, and that's not the artist date. That's for us to do our individual.
No, it says notice to selected artists. So that to me means we're telling the artists on the 11th. So
That
that's,
sounds short. No, you're right.
so, so the 4th is a Friday.
Yeah,
If we can get all the cafe stuff to us so that those that want to look at it and do their thing on a weekend, so we can get everything done by Tuesday. And then we have already pre-scheduled the meeting on Wednesday, which would then allow a Thursday to get the things in writing to the artists on Friday, right? That's okay.
If I can interject quickly, it is difficult when working, and I don't work in town, but it's difficult when we have these during the day meetings during working hours for me to accommodate that. It would be nice if we could do it after hours or keep it on weekends, like during a scheduled meeting for the final vote tally.
yeah, the trouble is getting CMC's computer lab in the evening when they have class scheduled.
Well, but it's,
Okay.
this is Kris Elice. It seems to me if the 11th is a Friday, that to tell the artists they will be notified by the Monday isn't as big a difference. And it gives those people who are working full-time and not locally close by some time to do it. But refresh my memory, because I've done this a couple of times. The CMC meeting is usually the weekday. Is it usually Thursday or Friday of that weekday?
Yes,
Okay. And and because of the lab, would a Friday evening be hard to get at CMC?
They may not be open on Friday evening.
Yeah, they may not. Anyway, my feeling is if you're gonna stretch it over the weekend, but that might not help us if our last thing to do is to meet at the CMC lab, because maybe we can ask them. I'm happy to ask them, is that possible to do on a Friday late afternoon or a Saturday morning?
And could you refresh my memory why we want to be there?
we vote online anonymously and it tallies
Okay.
and shows on
So it
the
needs the
screen
computer access.
immediately. Yes.
Could we not use the library?
I don't know, their computers are not in an enclosed room
They're not.
and they're available to anybody, so it complicates it.
Could it just be a virtual meeting where people use their own personal computers? I mean, or is that an option?
In this particular voting, those computers have to be linked. So you can't use your own computer. We're using the computer at the lab. So I think that for a time in regards to tonight, this is an excellent point, and I'm glad it's been brought up because we want every commission member to be there to vote. So would someone step forward and take that responsibility for over the next couple of months, just researching where we could go, whether it is at CMC at night or on the weekend or some other venue? Can somebody volunteer to do that?
I'll do that.
Who said that?
Kris, Elice.
Kris, they do have some, I've been to a class at, is it the one here in Carbondale?
Mhm.
Because I have been at classes there on a Saturday. So not in the computer room, but
Yeah,
You know,
I'll research it, because personally, I feel like coming together for that vote that has been historically at CMC is kind of important, that we're all together and we don't do
agree.
it virtually.
Mhm.
And would you take number 9?
Oh. Okay.
Could I also suggest that maybe we do a little bit of research and see if it is necessary, if there are people that are out of town, you know, due to work or family, that they can still vote, and we research that that is actually a possibility versus them all needing to be on the same server. And I'm happy to look into that.
And Brittany, why do you think that's necessary? If people have a lot of notice and it's one particular day,
I
think leaving that door open to be remote, it kind of defeats our whole purpose of coming together as a commission.
No, I was thinking in terms of it would open up access to more than one space as a viable option.
The computers have got to be linked. You can't work off of your own.
But if you,
Yeah, no, sorry, but they don't have to, they're not linked at all. It's just a login. It's like the login for all the other voting. It's not necessary. You could do a Zoom call and then everybody could vote. It's the same thing.
and then in that case, we could have it as just a regular meeting where we know we're voting and we bring our electronics, or if you don't have electronics, you know, maybe someone has an iPad or something that can be provided to the members that don't have access to a computer, and we could still vote together, but it then no longer needs to be a big thing during the day at CMC. That's
I'd
all.
like to suggest that we endeavor to do this as a group, because I think there's a certain type of synergy that occurs in real time with everybody being together. That's important. However, if the technology allows for people that can't be there to weigh in technologically otherwise, then we accommodate that. Does that make sense, that we endeavor for one and we accommodate the other?
Yes.
Well, I think that's a great idea. And it's a revelation to me that we could ever work independently, because I was always told that we needed to be in the lab and on those computers. So I'm delighted to know that if you could not be there, that you could still be part of it. One of the nice things about being together is that you'll get to a point where maybe we have all agreed on 13 pieces, but there are 2 other pieces that there is a lot of discussion about, and the discussion is really valuable, because I really like to hear other people's opinions. And I think one of the fun things about seeing the total screen, which you may or may not see if you're working remotely, is that you see, you know, I might like a piece a lot and Ann doesn't like it, and vice versa. And that has happened a lot. And I want to know from her, what is it that you see in that piece that you like or you
That's the
don't like?
synergy that happens in real time.
Right.
And the nice thing about this is these aren't mutually exclusive. This isn't an either or. I think we just try and get clarity on what our priority is and accommodate, you know, that which, you know, people that can't be there. So does that make sense to you guys? Should we like endeavor to go down that path?
well, there's a screen here. So if we could bring our personal computers and have the tallies on the screen, it might make sense too.
I think that's a secondary issue,
Yeah.
which is where we do it. The first issue is how we do it. Do we endeavor to keep the priority that we do it as a group and accommodate people remotely through Zoom that cannot participate in person? Is that an objective? Is that our priority?
Can I interject quickly?
Oh, totally.
I'm not suggesting that we don't vote all together, because I concur. I think it's important that we do it together. I'm just saying, if we do the research and it is possible that we can do it all together, but outside of CMC, that frees up the times when we can do it. So it could be at a time like now where it's a scheduled meeting. And so we're still all together, and those who can't make it are still able to participate in the discussion, but remotely. So everyone's
Well,
still,
both those things hold true in either circumstance. I mean, those aren't mutually exclusive. It's just a matter of which one are we do we feel like is more supportive of the overall objective, which is to come together as a group to identify a select number of artifacts to be exhibited in the public domain.
And
That's-
keep in mind that the screen at CMC, what I found valuable is how big the image projects on that screen. And so
Okay.
often when you see things small, just like sometimes the piece shows up and you're like, oh, it looked better on the screen or whatever. But I think the big screen was very helpful when we got down to the nitty gritty about, okay, what is it that you see in that and how's that going to work in the locations that we have? So I love the fact that, and there might be other locations and I'm happy to look into those, but I would love to have the large screen to look at besides just our, computer
That's
screen.
good information, Kris, having not gone through the process. And I think you're right, to see it on a bigger screen compared to your little one here could make a huge difference.
Made a difference for me.
And
I'm
we
visually
don't
impaired.
all
Yeah.
have the same level of computer skills. So if you sit around the table with 10 different computers,
Right.
there is no one to help us. At CMC, we're all logged in. We all know how to walk through the process very easily.
Well, why don't we
So let me do the questions for CMC to see if there are.
Yes,
Are there times that we could meet in an evening or a weekend day? And I'll get back to you on that because we might just be, chasing our tail here when they have an easy answer for us.
okay, good. And they won't, well, they'll know February soon. They're probably just planning. They may be able to give us a specific date,
We just ask.
and that may change our calendar. So we should get that first.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay. So the voting, we were going to talk about nominations for new chairs and then vote in November. And I believe, do we have that? All that, yes. Unless anyone wants to talk about proposing a change to the resolution. But if we do, that would delay it because it will need to go to town council.
I think that a change in the resolution is a viable solution. I'm not saying we need to do that now, but I think that's something we can do while also working with Cafe, because this is a perfect time to do the board changeover where we have new chairs that come in and the old chairs step down and everybody is there to help with the transition. I think this is a great time for it. Thoughts?
In order to be in keeping with the bylaws, what can be proposed is to go ahead and vote in November. And that chair would be the incoming chair and would be included in all cafe discussion, planning, et cetera, but would not officially take that office until January. So then everything
Correct.
is copacetic.
Correct. That was my understanding of the resolution as well. I'm just saying that once the new chair steps up or in January, officially, maybe that's when we tackle the resolution to get that to be a voting and transition for the fall of the following year, year 2022.
One of the desires of the town is that all of the incoming people come in the month of January. So there is a continuity between commissions and boards. But we can certainly entertain the thought of changing that and setting our own rules.
I think it's a great time just because it's within our schedule. It is the quiet time for our board. So I don't see that being a giant conflict, but to be fair, I'm not 100% on that.
Okay, so we are not tackling that right now, is what I heard. And are there nominations or self-nominations for the board chair?
I had sent an email out as a letter of intent to step forward as a chair, and I'm still very much interested in doing that.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you, Brittany, and we'll vote in November.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Brittany.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next up.
Next up, we'd like to vote on Michael Stout. And thank you very much for having attended your 3 meetings, and we are glad to have you here. So I'm just going to ask for a yay or a nay.
We have to
Yes,
have a
ma'am.
A motion in a second.
I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Do we have a motion to have a vote on Michael Stout?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. And do we have a second?
Sure.
Second that.
David
A
had,
second? No. Good.
So who, Brittany did the motion?
And David did a
Yes.
second. All in favor of having Michael be a part of the commission, say aye. Any
Aye.
nays? No nays. Thank you very much. We welcome you.
And we need
And
to do the same
Kris.
thing. for
And well, I was going to give it to Kris.
Okay.
Well, do we vote on, do we need to vote on Kris, or we do need to
She's
vote?
renewing her.
She has been fabulous on this commission. So I would like to, may I personally make a motion?
As the chair.
I
you
cannot.
I'll make a motion to accept Kris as a renewal on the board.
I will happily second Kris joining us again.
All right, all in favor of having Kris on the board?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? No nays. All right, we get to see your smiling face more.
how about Joe? Is he gonna renew?
No,
No?
Excuse me.
I guess he's.
Switch to old
prefers-
business. I can't see who's speaking. Is there any old business? Anyone wants to discuss anything old that we have not touched on tonight? Okay. Any new business? I would simply like for people to think about reaching out to your neighbors or your friends in the community and see if they are interested in being on the commission, because Carol is moving away and Joe is not going to renew. So we do have those 2 spaces and it's an awful lot of fun. So please reach out and see if you have friends or neighbors that might want to be a participant. Any other new business?
well, Kate, oh, go ahead.
Well, just to reiterate, I think we should evaluate, relook at the damage that happens to the sculptures and figure out it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. Preventative things. I actually spoke to one of our policemen about this. And he didn't know all the details about things, but suggested there's some sort of ecological preventative measures to make sure that things are well lit, that sculptures are not hidden behind trees or behind barriers. And there's a whole city planning kind of thing that can be done with this, with trying to prevent damage to sculptures. Driving cars into them is a different matter. But it just seems, and I don't know what the consequence is. I know if I go and get a bunch of accidents, my insurance rates go up. Maybe this town is perfectly happy paying more for insurance. Maybe they don't get their insurance raised. I don't know, but it would be something that I don't know if we need to discuss it now, but I'd like to make sure it's on the agenda for discussion.
From
Sorry, I didn't have my mic on, but I have a question regarding the damage. And does it seem to be this ones on Main Street that are being damaged, like more vandalized? Or is there any type of, I guess, rhythm to how?
Well, why don't we, since we're going to make it an agenda item, Laurie can probably get that data for us. Discussion.
It'd be helpful to have historical data because I just know the last 2 years. And it'd be nice if Lori has it for going back 10 years, that'd be great.
Well, yeah, I don't.
From a design point of view, because obviously this is what I do for work, you can do all the prevention in the world, but at the end of the day, it is surprising what happens still. And I'm not trying to discourage, I just want to be completely transparent about it. We design constantly for theft, for safety, because that's the baser of everything landscape architects design for. And no matter what we do, what we think we're preventing, people are creative in their accident-prone nature as well. You cannot prevent against drunk drivers. It's, as much as we try, it's kind of an impossible task.
They're pretty effective at guarding the White House and having people not drive into it.
It's also not a happy place that you can just stroll up and enjoy from the inside of the fence.
Well, the last topic, and maybe we should put that on next month too. Well, it's up to you, but is when new members join. Kay pointed out that our resolution and or bylaws say January, and that most commissions do that, but we could leave that amended or say as needed. So think about it and we can discuss it next time.
It also says that vacancies shall be filled for the unexpired term.
That's my point.
Right. So that, I mean, it doesn't mean that we have to wait till January.
Right.
Well, so the point would be that the members would only fill, so if Carol were to leave and she still has another year, somebody that came on, like if Michael came on to replace her, he would only fill that, the rest of that. And so, for example, the Park and Rec, they all come in September, all of the new members. And so they spend 2 months reviewing applications and interviewing people and then onboarding them. And so my thought was with January and February being the cafe, that might be a lot for the commission to do, especially since you would be interviewing in November and December with holidays. So you could either shift it to September, or you could also change the verbiage and just say appoint as needed, and it's a rotating and everybody's kind of on a different schedule. It makes no difference to me. I'm just thinking of the workload for the commission.
I think it's a great point. Let's go ahead and put it on the schedule for next meeting and get that resolved because we have so much that goes on. Once cafe gets kicked off all the way to the artist coming, the install, the reception, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that would be great. So we'll put it on the agenda for next week, next month, and everyone can be thinking about that. And so is there anything that is missing? Any comments, anything anyone would like to weigh in on before we have a motion to adjourn?
The town attorney is reviewing the art around town contracts so that if the sculpture is damaged and they choose to get an insurance buyout, the commission would still get a 25% commission. So that is in review, and that one might address the issue with drunk drivers and such, because it's kind of easy to just take the insurance money and go and then resell it in a different form. So if the town and CPAC at least got some sort of compensation for an insurance payout, that might be a little less brutal.
That sounds pretty fair to me.
Okay.
I also like that idea.
Just recently, we've had drunk drivers. It has not been an issue for many, many years, or somebody trying to pull a horse off. It's, in Mountain Fair, they kind of, but still, it's a gray issue as to how damaged is it. And if you're going to repair it and sell it again, that's fine, but there's no accountability. So if CPAC at least got the commission with an insurance payout, that eases the burden. So that's in review, and maybe that's a good, easy solution for damaged sculpture. But the one on Snowmass in Maine, there's like rocks, a stone wall all around that sculpture. And it's pretty amazing that people have hit that and kept going. So, I mean, it's a fantastic spot, and it would really eliminate the possibility of having another large sculpture. But if this was amended, then maybe it would be a little bit more palatable to keep a sculpture there. So anyway, it's in the loop, and I'll let you know if that is acceptable to the town attorney.
Now, just for clarification, the town treasurer says the 25% does not go to this commission, but goes to the town. And maybe it goes to the 1% fund, but it does not go to this commission.
No, it goes to the 1% fund for CPAC. So it does go to CPAC, and that's what has built that fund up for maintenance. And, if
There's another
CPAC
issue.
wanted to make a purchase, that's where that money would come from. So if there was a 25% commission, it goes into the 1% fund for CPAC.
So I feel like we're getting ready to wrap, and I just wanted to ask a question of the group, the board. Does the board support myself, David, and Michael to pursue our questions to get clarity from Renee on these questions? Yeah? Is that do we need to vote, or is everyone good on that? Because we explored, we're still not clear. Okay, all right, good.
Can you catch me up on what you're wanting clarification on exactly?
So, I'm just, were you here at the beginning of the meeting?
No.
Today,
Unfortunately,
Brittany?
unfortunately,
no
I was
worries.
late.
So one of the things that we had talked about in the previous meeting was trying to get full clarity on the resolution, I guess called, anyhow, that created CPAC. And that being, what is our full scope of responsibilities? And as it regards to everything, but very in particular, we're trying to get clarity on funding for CPAC, what the pathways are for communication to this organization, to fulfill our obligations. There's just a whole lot of questions we have that we have talked about here as a group, that David has also endeavored to get clarity on from Renee Gustine, who works for the town. And so this is all in process, and none of the answers have been fully, or we don't have full answers to all of our questions, I guess is the best way to put it. So we're in the middle of getting clarity, and we're looking for a vote from the board to empower us to move forward, to continue until we have answers to all these questions.
I don't think you need a vote.
Okay, no, but Brittany,
just a
that's what we're
subcommittee.
doing. Does that make sense?
Okay. Oh, yeah, no, I understand that you're hunting down the answers to your questions. I just was wondering if there were specific questions that you were.
So there
Yes, oh,
are,
we're not
and
putting it into it.
yeah, so there
And it-
are, and we can maybe talk about that next time. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? So I think
Or
it
I'm happy to just have it be an email that just to get me up to speed is all.
I'll talk to David about that, because these emails exist organically from this process already. So they didn't come out of this board, they came out of outreach to the town, and they do exist. So I don't know, David, you okay with forwarding those to Brittany?
Yeah, this
I've
is a public issue for the commission, so they should actually always go to everybody on the commission. Unless it's a
Yeah.
subcommittee, there's not a subcommittee for this, so it should go to everybody, so everybody has input on it.
Well, I don't know what, yeah,
It just essentially, because it's a board issue, all board members should be aware of what's being raised as questions is all.
yeah,
And we said.
and we
30
have been,
minutes.
yeah, but it sounds, so just back to facilitate that process, David, are you okay with sending that
I'll take care of it.
to Brittany, or I guess now it's gonna go to the whole?
And this was
Board.
discussed at length last meeting also. So, thank you.
Yeah,
All right,
okay,
thank you guys.
yeah, we just want to close the loop on it.
We have a motion to adjourn.
Yes.
I make a motion to adjourn.
We need a second on that motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Thank you,
Kris.
David, seconds. Thanks, everybody. Beautiful night.
Thank
Have a good
you.
night.